Welcome to Shatter.
You'll get what you deserve when I feel like it. That's what she said, standing in the doorway, arms folded, eyes flat, voice calm, almost sweet. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just smiled. And somehow, that hurt more than anything. That night changed something in me. Not because it was the first time she'd weaponized intimacy, but because it was the first time I heard it, without denial, without excuses. Because this time, she said it with pride. Let me be clear. This wasn't some drunken argument or heat-of-the-moment insult. It was premeditated, measured, like she'd been rehearsing it in her head for weeks. And maybe she had. We'd been distant for months, maybe longer. At first, I blamed work, burnout, stress, the things normal couples go through. But deep down, I knew something darker was growing between us. And it wore a familiar face. Her silence wasn't quiet. It was sharp, purposeful, a punishment she could turn on and off at will. She'd stopped touching me months ago. No soft hand across my back when I cooked. No kiss before bed. No warmth on the couch. Just absence. But not emptiness. Because she filled that space with something else. Control. I didn't realize it at the time, but she'd been rationing affection like a reward. Like I was a dog. And she was training me. Some nights I'd reach for her in bed. And she'd shift, sigh, mumble something like, "Not now," or "I'm tired." No big deal, right? Until I noticed the pattern. I could buy flowers, cook dinner, work overtime. Didn't matter. There was always one more hoop. And when I stopped jumping, she noticed. That night, the night she dropped the line, I had said something small. I don't even remember what. Maybe I asked if she wanted to watch a movie together. She looked up from her phone, blinked slowly, and said it like a verdict. "You'll get what you deserve when I feel like it." And she went back to scrolling. I stood there for a second. Didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Just watched her. I think she expected me to argue, beg, get angry, do something that gave her power. But I didn't. I smiled. Not out of sarcasm. Not even out of pain. It was something colder than that. Clarity. Because in that moment, I saw what I'd been refusing to admit for a long time. This wasn't love. It was a contract. And I'd been the only one signing it. She wasn't withholding affection. She was feeding off my need for it. And without that need, she had nothing left to hold over me. So I stopped asking. That night, we lay in the same bed, back to back. No goodnight. No tension. No closeness. Just cold air between us. She didn't say a word. Neither did I. But something changed. Not out loud. Not with fireworks. It was quieter than that. I started disappearing. And she hadn't even noticed yet. She didn't notice at first. Of course she didn't. When someone's used to being at the center of everything, they rarely look up when someone walks away. Until the room is empty. That's the trick with silence. It doesn't knock. It leaks in. Slow. Cold. Permanent. I didn't leave. I just stopped arriving. I woke up earlier. Left the house without a sound. No coffee made for her. No breakfast. No soft, "Have a good day," like I'd said every morning for the last 6 years. She came into the kitchen that first morning, blinked at the empty mug rack, then shrugged and scrolled her phone. She still thought I was just in one of my moods. Perfect. At work, I didn't text her. Didn't send memes. Didn't ask how her day was going. By the second day, she noticed. She sent a message around noon. "Everything okay?" I didn't respond. Not out of anger, but because I had nothing left to say. When I came home that night, she was already on the couch. Netflix on, wine poured. A familiar ritual. One we used to share. She glanced up as I walked past. "You're late," she said. I nodded, kicked off my shoes. Didn't ask what she was watching. Didn't sit next to her. Just disappeared into the bedroom. No argument. No scene. The next day was the same. And the day after that. It took 5 days before her patience cracked. That morning, as I was getting ready, she leaned in the doorway. Sleep shirt. Bare feet. Eyes squinting like she was studying a puzzle. "You've been quiet lately." I nodded. Something wrong. I zipped my bag. Slipped on my watch. Turned to her, calm. "No. Just thinking about things." That's all I gave her. She waited. I could feel it. Waited for the explanation, the confession, the real reason. But I had none. Because silence doesn't explain itself. It simply is. That night, I went to the gym. Took my time. Came home sweating, tired, and more alive than I'd felt in months. She was curled on the couch again. Same wine. Same show. But this time, she muted it. "You've been out a lot," she said. I shrugged. Needed some air. She studied me. I could feel her eyes scanning. trying to locate the version of me she used to control. But he was gone, and all that was left was someone she didn't recognize. "You okay?" she asked again. I nodded, drying my hair with a towel. "Better than I've been in a long time." That one hit. She didn't say anything after that. She just turned back to her show. But the wine sat untouched. The control was slipping, and she knew it. She just didn't know how much I'd already taken back. By the end of the week, I had restructured our finances, split my direct deposit, opened a private account. She didn't notice because she never checked. That's the thing with people who hold power through emotion. They forget about the boring stuff, the foundations. And I was already moving the bricks. It always starts the same way. They don't notice the silence at first. Then they think it's just distance. Then they panic. She didn't say it out loud, not yet. But I could see it in the way she started lingering around doorways, asking questions she used to ignore, the soft shift in her tone, the cautious glances when I picked up my phone. She was starting to feel it. Not guilt. Not yet. Just loss of control. Because when someone's used to being chased, nothing is more terrifying than being ignored. One night, she came to bed early. That alone was strange. She used to stay up late, watching shows I didn't know she liked, scrolling endlessly through curated lives that weren't ours. But that night, she walked in, wearing the black slip I hadn't seen in over a year. She climbed into bed slowly, didn't say a word. I was already lying there, eyes closed. But I felt the shift in the air, the weight of her decision. She wanted something, not connection, not closeness. She wanted validation, to know she still had power. She brushed her hand along my arm. Soft, deliberate, practiced. I didn't move, didn't flinch, just breathed steady. Eventually, she pulled back. And that was the first crack. Because it's not rejection that breaks them. It's indifference. The next day, she tried again. Different tactic. She cooked. We hadn't eaten together in weeks. But that evening, I walked in. And the table was set. Candles. Wine. "Thought I'd make something nice," she said, without looking up. I nodded, took off my jacket. "I already ate," I said calmly. Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Oh, you could have said something. Didn't know I needed permission to eat." That one landed. But again, no fight. No raised voice. No drama. Just silence. And walking away. I knew what was coming next. The final test. The performance. The shift from pride to victimhood. From control to desperation. And I was ready. That night, I lay in bed again, reading. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "Are we going to talk?" she asked. I looked up. "About what?" "Don't do that. You've been weird lately." I held her gaze. Calm. Still. Weird. Cold. Distant. Like you're not even here. I waited a beat, then said it flatly. "You once said I'd get what I deserve when you felt like it. So maybe now, you're getting exactly what you earned." She blinked. Didn't speak. Didn't smile. Just stood there. Like a statue that finally realized it's made of glass. She turned and left the room. And I went back to my book. But I didn't read a word. Because inside, I was burning. Not with hate. Not with jealousy. With clarity. For years, I thought love meant trying harder. Being patient. Understanding. Giving her space. But real love doesn't punish. It doesn't manipulate. It doesn't say you'll get affection when I feel like giving it. That's not a relationship. That's control. And I was done being obedient. It's strange how quick they switch tones when they feel you slipping. She used to talk to me like I was a burden. Now it was all light touches on the shoulder. Questions like, "Want me to grab you something from the store?" Fake concern wrapped in forced cheerfulness. But the mask was thin and slipping fast. I stayed calm, polite, but distant. Always distant. And that was driving her insane. One night, I was brushing my teeth when she stepped into the bathroom behind me. She leaned against the counter like old times, eyes soft, casual. "Remember that trip to the coast? That little inn with the fireplace?" I didn't answer. Not because I didn't remember, but because I remembered too well. That was the last time she'd kissed me like she meant it. And it had been over a year ago. "We should do something like that again," she said. I met her eyes in the mirror. Smiled. "Maybe you should." Then I walked out. That night, she texted me from the other room. "I miss you." I stared at the screen for a while. Didn't respond. It was bait. Wrapped in nostalgia. Drenched in guilt. And I was done biting hooks. But the moment everything changed, the moment the test ended, came the next morning. She had left her phone on the kitchen counter. Unlocked. It buzzed. Normally, I wouldn't look. But this wasn't normal anymore. The message preview was short. He doesn't suspect a thing. See you soon. My chest didn't tighten. My breath didn't catch. I just read it. And everything snapped into place. I picked up the phone, checked the sender. A number. No name. But the thread was full. Weeks of messages. Midday rendezvous. Lies layered so thick they didn't even bother hiding anymore. He's been quiet lately. I think he's onto me. But it doesn't matter. He won't do anything. He never does. That one hit. I read it again. He never does. It wasn't just infidelity. It was contempt. That's what finally lit the fire. She didn't just cheat. She mocked me for being steady. For being dependable. Like those were weaknesses. I locked the screen. Set the phone back exactly where it was. Sat down. Ate my breakfast. She came in moments later, humming some mindless tune. Phone still untouched. She kissed my cheek on autopilot. Morning, she said. Morning, I replied. She never noticed. She thought she still had control. But that morning, she lost everything. Because she thought I would do what I always did. Ignore. Absorb. Tolerate. She was wrong. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. This wasn't about explosions. This was about erosion. And by the time she felt it, there'd be nothing left beneath her feet. That line haunted me. Not because it hurt, but because it confirmed everything I'd suspected for years. He never does. She didn't see me as passive. She saw me as powerless. She believed I would stay, no matter what she did, no matter who she did it with. And honestly, for a long time, she was right, but not anymore. That morning, after I read the messages, I didn't explode. I didn't break a glass. Didn't scream. I made a list. Not a metaphorical one. A real list. Typed into my phone. Names. Dates. Time frames. Patterns. Because if I was going to burn the house down, I wanted to own the fire. She had a second phone. That was clear now, some kind of hidden app, disguised icon, burner account. Teenage tricks. But I didn't need her secrets. I had something better. Patterns. She always said she was bad with schedules. But the irony? She was one of the most predictable people I'd ever known. I started tracking everything. Late nights. New consulting clients. Spa weekends. Dinners with Rachel. Same names. Same excuses. And always on the same days of the week. I didn't tell anyone. Not friends. Not family. Just watched. The next Friday, she said she was meeting her sister. She wore lipstick I hadn't seen in months. Perfume I bought her 2 birthdays ago. Don't wait up, she said with a grin. I didn't. But I did follow her. Not close. Not dumb. Just far enough to see her park outside a condo across town. She didn't even hesitate. Buzzed herself in. Gone. I didn't need photos. I wasn't doing this for court. I was doing it for clarity. The next day, I found the guy. His name was Mark. Divorced. Mid-40s. Worked in some kind of corporate logistics. The kind of job that sounded important, but meant nothing. No kids. No wife. Just expensive watches, weekend golf, and my wife. I found his social profiles. His company bio. Even a smug video of him giving a talk at a conference. The key to success is knowing when to pivot. He smiled into the mic like he'd just discovered fire. I watched that line 5 times. And something in me settled. He thought he was winning. She thought she was playing both sides. But I wasn't in the game anymore. I was rewriting the rules. Back home, I was calm. Still helpful. Still composed. I made coffee in the mornings. Loaded the dishwasher. Folded laundry. But I'd stopped being present. She'd talk, and I'd nod. She'd joke, and I'd smile. But there was nothing behind it. No anger. No fear. Just distance. And that's what terrified her. Because she could handle drama. Manipulate guilt. Play victim. But indifference? That was something she couldn't control. She once said affection should be earned. Fine. She could earn my silence now. She could keep it. Permanently. The thing about silence? It always starts as a choice. But eventually, it becomes a presence. Thick. Heavy. Louder than any scream. She started noticing it more now. The way I didn't ask where she was going. Didn't text when she stayed out late. Didn't even blink when she walked in smelling like a stranger's cologne. I wasn't passive. I was done. She'd enter a room. I wouldn't look up. She'd talk. I'd let the words float past me like background noise. Sometimes, she'd touch my arm, a soft brush, almost apologetic. I didn't pull away, but I didn't respond either. I didn't give her rejection, just absence, and it drove her insane. The turning point came one morning. I was already dressed, sitting at the table, reading. She walked in wearing that robe, the one she used to save for weekends when things were good. Hair done, light makeup, coffee mug in hand, smile rehearsed. "You're up early." I nodded. She sat across from me, watched me for a long time, then finally asked, "Are we okay?" That was the first time she'd asked anything real in months. I looked up, calm, neutral. Define okay. She blinked. "Didn't expect that." "I just mean, you've been different." "I have." "Is it something I did?" The question landed like a coin dropped in water. Too late. Too small. I smiled, a quiet one. Almost kind. "No. It's what you stopped doing." I stood, rinsed my cup, and left for work. That night, I moved the rest of the money. Legally. Strategically. Clean. She never noticed. Because she never looked. I shut down the joint credit card. Opened a new one in my name. Transferred utilities. Redirected mail. She was still watching Netflix while I erased myself from the bills that made her life comfortable. I contacted a lawyer. We reviewed everything: financial records, digital logs, saved messages. No drama. Just documentation. She was still laughing at TikToks. I was finalizing exit strategy. I started sleeping in a different room. She pretended it was just temporary. "You snore more lately," she joked once. I didn't respond. Let her think it was about comfort. Let her believe anything, except the truth. That she was already living with a stranger. And soon, she'd be living alone. But I wasn't cruel. Not yet. I didn't confront her. Didn't expose the affair. Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about control, the kind that can't be taken back once it's lost. And every day, I watched her try to claw it back. With small talk. With glances. With apologies disguised as jokes. But none of it worked. Because you can't fix what you never knew you were breaking. And she broke it all. One withheld touch. One dismissed word. One manipulated moment at a time. Now the cracks were everywhere. She could feel it. She just didn't know where it would collapse first. The moment she realized something was wrong. Wasn't dramatic. There was no shouting. No slammed doors. "No, we need to talk." It happened on a Tuesday. Cloudy sky. Light rain. Ordinary. The kind of day people forget. But she wouldn't forget this one. She was in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone, sipping tea. I came in, calm, collected, as always. Opened the fridge. Reached for the orange juice. Then I said it. "Funny thing. You always hated rain. But that night you told me you were at Rachel's." It poured. I didn't look at her. Just poured the juice. Silence. Tight. Sharp. I could feel her eyes on my back. "What night?" she asked. Voice too casual. Too rehearsed. "Doesn't matter," I said. "Just thought it was odd. You used to complain about driving in weather like that." I sipped. Turned to her. Smiled. But not with warmth. She blinked. Fingers tightened around the mug. "You think something's going on?" That's when I saw it. The first crack. Right there in her voice. Small. Barely audible. But real. I tilted my head. "Should I?" She didn't answer. Didn't need to. The silence said everything. From that moment, everything changed for her. She started watching me more closely. Asking where I was going. What time I'd be back. Who I was texting. I didn't lie. I didn't hide. But I also didn't explain. Because explanations are for people who owe each other something. And she had already broken the contract. She started dressing differently. Nicer. Softer colors. More perfume. Left love notes on the bathroom mirror. Smiled more at breakfast. Too late. You don't get to play gentle after months of using affection as a weapon. I wasn't angry. That would have been easy. What I felt was cleaner. Clarity. I watched her unravel. Piece by piece. One night, she knocked on the door of the guest room. "Can we talk?" I didn't move. I feel like you're slipping away." I stared at the ceiling. Let the silence stretch. Then said, "Slipping implies I was still holding on." She went quiet. I didn't open the door. Didn't ask her to explain. Didn't comfort her. She left without another word. And that was the beginning of her desperation. The next morning, she cooked breakfast. French toast. My favorite. She sat across from me, trying not to look nervous. "I thought we could start over. You know. Try again." I nodded. "That's sweet." But I didn't eat. Just picked up my keys and left. Later that day, she texted. Please talk to me. I'm sorry if I hurt you. I didn't reply, because it wasn't an if. And I wasn't interested in apologies made under threat of consequences. She was starting to feel it now. The emptiness. The distance. The sinking weight of knowing you've ruined something you can't repair. She once told me I'd get what I deserve. She was right. And so was she. Because now, she had nothing left to withhold. I didn't want drama. I didn't want some teary confession. Or a desperate apology delivered with shaking hands. I just wanted truth. And distance. So I made it simple. One folder. Printed screenshots. Timestamped messages. A log of her late-night visits to places she said she'd never been. No commentary. No note. Just facts. I placed it gently on her pillow while she was in the shower. Steam filled the hallway. I could hear her humming. I didn't wait for the water to stop. I didn't prepare a speech. I just sat on the edge of the bed, tied my shoes, and walked into the kitchen. 5 minutes later, I heard it. The sound of the door opening. Then silence. Then the creak of the mattress. The soft rustle of paper. And finally, nothing. Not even a gasp. When I walked back to the bedroom, she was standing beside the bed. Folder open. Hands trembling. She looked at me like a stranger. No anger. No defense. Just the pale, hollow stare of someone caught in a lie they can't outrun. Where did you get this? She whispered. I didn't answer. It's not, she started, but her voice cracked. Not what it looks like? I said it softly, almost kindly. That's what broke her. Because kindness at the edge of collapse cuts deeper than any scream. It wasn't serious, she said, stepping toward me. I didn't mean. I thought you didn't care anymore. I raised my eyebrows. So that makes it better? She froze. You were distant, she tried again. You stopped trying. After you did, I said. Simple. Measured. I wasn't arguing. Just stating fact. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. She flinched like I'd slapped her. But I hadn't touched her at all. Please, she said. We can fix this. I'll stop. I'll cut it off. You already did, I said. The night you let someone else take what you'd been withholding. Her eyes filled, but no tears fell. She opened her mouth. But there was nothing left to say that wouldn't sound like survival instinct. Don't leave, she whispered. I left weeks ago, I said. The body stays long after the soul walks out. That was the part she never understood. She thought cheating was the betrayal, but it wasn't. The betrayal was using love like a leash, withholding it until I begged, punishing me with absence, feeding me crumbs while she dined elsewhere. Now she stood in the wreckage of her own design, and there was no one to blame but herself. I packed that night. Not loudly, not vengefully, just quietly, with the same silence she used to train me into obedience. Only now, the silence belonged to me. She sat on the edge of the bed, folder still in her lap. As I zipped the last bag, "Is this really it?" she asked. I looked at her. No hate, no fury, just peace. Yes. And I walked out. The first message came 2 days after I left. Can we talk? I saw it pop up on my phone while I was at the gym. A place she once called pointless. Back when I was too tired to fight for myself. I didn't open it. Didn't even let the preview expand. Just cleared the notification and kept lifting. There's something sacred about silence. When it's no longer used against you. For years, she weaponized absence. Now I did the same. Not to hurt her, but to protect myself. The second message came that night. I know I messed up, but we were good once. You can't just erase that. But I could. Because she already had long before I did. I just finally followed her lead. I didn't block her. Not yet. There's power in letting them talk into the void. By the end of the week, there were 8 messages, each one more frantic than the last. She shifted tones the way a drowning person shifts limbs, reaching for anything that might float. I miss you. This isn't who we are. You're being cruel now. So you just walk away? After everything? Yes. Yes, I do. Because when you spend long enough begging for connection, then stop, you learn something horrifying. You were never in a relationship. You were a resource. She didn't miss me. She missed what I gave her. The safety, the status, the version of herself she liked when I stood beside her. But me? She hadn't seen me in years. She only saw the parts of me that served her. Now I was gone, and the mirror was gone with me. She'd have to face herself now. Unfiltered, unloved, undistracted. A friend told me she moved into a small one-bedroom across town. Said she looked thinner, tired. Said she asked about me. Said she'd been seeing someone. A therapist, not another man. Progress, I guess. But not my problem. One night, I saw her by accident. Corner coffee shop. She was waiting in line. Hair tied back. No makeup. Hoodie 2 sizes too big. She looked up. Saw me. Paused. I nodded once. She opened her mouth. I turned and walked out. Not to hurt her. Not to make a scene. But because I owed her nothing. Not anymore. That night, she sent one last message. I was wrong. You were the best thing in my life. I just didn't see it then. She meant it. Maybe for the first time. But truth spoken in ruin doesn't rebuild the house. I didn't respond. Just archived the thread. Closed the app. And slept like I hadn't in years. I used to imagine closure like a conversation. One last talk. Maybe a tear or two. A chance to say everything that had been left unsaid. But real closure? It's not a conversation. It's the moment you realize you don't care anymore. Not with hate. Not with bitterness. Just nothing. That's where I am now. People ask sometimes, friends, coworkers, the ones who knew her. Do you ever miss her? Do you think she regrets it? Would you ever forgive her? I smile. Not because it's funny, but because it's over. And when something is truly over, you don't need to explain it to anyone. She used to exist in every corner of my life. Now, she's just a name on a lease I no longer live under. A contact in my phone I no longer see. A chapter closed so tightly, I don't even hear the echo when I walk away. I kept the folder. The one I left on her pillow. Not because I need it. Not because I plan to show anyone. But because it reminds me of something important. I let it go after I had proof. Not before. Not out of weakness. But out of clarity. Because that's what strength looks like sometimes. It's not vengeance. Not yelling. Not even confrontation. It's leaving. When every part of your body still remembers what staying felt like. She texted one more time last month. A picture of an old photo she found while packing. Us on the beach. Her head on my shoulder. The caption said, "We were happy here." I didn't reply. Because we weren't. Not really. We were surviving. And I'm not interested in surviving anymore. I want to live. I run more now. Sleep more. Laugh louder. The music in my apartment is different. Not sad. Not loud. Just mine. The couch has only one indentation. The bed is half made. Because I like it that way. The fridge has exactly what I eat. Nothing more. Nothing less. There's no tension in the walls. No forced small talk in the kitchen. No, I'll think about it when I suggest dinner. Just peace. Real peace. The kind that doesn't beg. Doesn't explain. Doesn't settle. Some people say revenge is the best closure. They're wrong. Pieces. Knowing I could have ruined her reputation. Could have burned it all to the ground. But didn't. I just walked away. She wanted space. Now she lives in it. She wanted freedom. Now she tastes it, bitter and cold. She thought I was safe to hurt. Predictable. Passive. Now I'm just gone. And she's a ghost. And I don't chase ghosts.